Hi, everybody. Mike White here. Welcome to this week's vlog post. Interesting week, and I guess it just highlights for me the times in my life that I may have said things um, that I wish I hadn't said at the time, or have heard other people say things where boy, you really shouldn't have said that. Okay to think it, but you certainly can't say that part out loud. And I think part of what happens, in the mortgage industry and in real estate, but more so in the mortgage industry, we're very sensitive in the environment that we work in based upon people's perception um, of what things are and how markets react to certain information and certain situations. And in some cases, people say things that they think are going to help the situation, and in the long run, it not only doesn't help it, but it makes things far worse. And, and we've all seen it, and we know it happens. But when it happens to people in positions of authority, boy, that the challenges can be extreme. And I bring this up because in the past few days, we saw the president at a campaign event. And he told the audience that he was pretty sure that the Fed was going to be cutting rates, pretty soon. Pretty soon. And and while he smiled at the crowd, the markets knew that this was going to become an issue. And the Fed has always tried to maintain at least the appearance of being apolitical and an independent agent. And they fight, some of them more vocally than others, about not being bullied or pushed around or influenced by political events. They try to navigate the economy the way that they best see, trying not to yield to political pressure. Now, certainly not easy, and I'm not saying that there aren't times where it has happened or members of the Fed have felt one way or another. But the reality of it is when the president goes out there and suggests that rate cuts are soon to follow, the knee-jerk reaction in the markets are going to be that the Fed chairman specifically, but the Fed in general, probably their reaction to that's going to be the fact that any potential rate cut may come later or further down the line, if at all, than it would have, so that it distance itself from the appearance of having been influenced. And when you add that comment in that situation to economic data that came out last week that was somewhat surprising to the markets, and the markets have already had an adverse response to employment data as well as economic data in the last couple of weeks. We're seeing rates being pushed to the higher side. The pressures on rates going higher, not on the rates going lower. And when you couple that with the fact that we're going to have unemployment numbers, both initial claims and continuing claims, today, Thursday, and then we're going to have the jobs report and the unemployment rate for March tomorrow, Friday, you just put yourself in a position to make things go from bad to worse. And for whatever political advantage there may have been gained by saying certain things, the reality of it is you can talk all you want. It's what takes place that really proves the point. And it's just not a wise move ever, being critical of the Fed, especially in a presidential election year. The Fed is going to do what it can to try to stay apolitical and not influence things. Again, it's what they're supposed to do. But now that this has taken place, again, it's not a major thing, but it didn't help. And so sometimes you just maybe shouldn't have said it, because there really is no gain until you point to things that have already taken place, as opposed to telling people what might happen. So there's that. And just so keep that in mind. Today's unemployment continuing claims, tomorrow's jobs report could impact the markets. And that's really, something that you have to be aware of. The other news out there is we've seen a lot more about the NAR settlement across the board, and lots of conversations, but as of yet, we still have nothing signed off by the judge in the case. And so there's nothing etched in stone yet. So we've got to be paying attention to the fact that, a lot of this stuff is, again, just talking about things that may or may not happen. And the only reality so far has been FHA putting out FHA note 2024-12, which says basically their interpretation of the NAR agreement. If that happens the way they're talking about, as long as the commissions that is being paid to the buyer's agent is considered normal and customary in that market, that they're not going to hold that against the percentage of the seller's concession that's allowable. So at least they're the first one to come out and say something that if what they say is true based upon what the agreement says, blah, 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 FHA is not going to hold that seller paying that buyer's agent's commission against the amount of money allowable for a seller's concession. So at least that's out there. So just keep in mind that these things are out there. Go online, print yourself out a copy of the FHA 2024-12 so that you've got it. So, it's there. You can keep having conversations with people. Just be aware. Just like today we have unemployment continuing claims, initial claims, and tomorrow we have jobs report that could be market movers. All things to be paying attention to. As always, if you have questions or comments, Mike at imtcoaching.com. Talk to you again next week. Take care.